It's the South Carolina Goodlife Podcast.
Welcome, Realtors, to another episode of the South Carolina Goodlife Podcast. Today, I'll be your host, Tiara Pitts, and I'm the Director of Fair Housing here at the State Association. I also serve as the staff liaison to our statewide Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council. Today's podcast episode will be part of our initiatives to allow our members to share their unique perspectives and get to know our diverse membership a little bit more. We have some really special guests here today who I'm so excited could join us. First, let me introduce Jerriann Jackson, who is the founder and broker in charge of Blue Jay Agency in Rock Hill, South Carolina. Jerriann currently serves as the president-elect and community service chairperson at the Piedmont Association of Realtors. Additionally, she volunteers on our statewide Diversity Council. Jerriann is a graduate of Winthrop University and an advocate for fair housing policies and equitable economic development. Welcome, Jerriann.
Glad to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Welcome. Next up, we have Veronica Navarro, who is a realtor with the Homes Finder Realty Group in Beaufort, South Carolina, where her bilingual fluency in Spanish and English has made her a go-to resource for customers, clients, and colleagues. Veronica is a graduate of the University of South Carolina Beaufort and has earned her ABR designation and MRP certification, as well as volunteers on our State Diversity Council. Welcome, Veronica, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for the invitation. Glad to be here.
And last but not least, we have Karen Yip, who is the founder of Yip Premier Real Estate and Yip Property Management Services based in Columbia, South Carolina. She is a graduate of the University of South Carolina and has been a realtor since 2003. Karen has served on the board of directors for Central Carolina Realtors and the Consolidated MLS Service, as well as being a former member of the Richland County Planning Commission. Thank you for being here, Karen.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you all for joining us. And in celebration of Fair Housing Month, I would like to get to know you guys more and hear your perspectives on some different questions. But first, let's just get started with, how did you get involved in real estate and how long have you been in the business?
Well, I'll take that question first. I actually graduated from U of SC in Columbia in 2003, and I grew up working in my mom and dad's Chinese restaurant, and that was the family business. So over the years, we developed a lot of regular customers that would come to my parents' restaurant, and I secured my degree in business and marketing in August, and I wasn't really sure what route to take, but one of the regular customers that come in there, she was actually a real estate recruiter for Coldwell Banker at the time. And she said, you have the personality, have you ever thought about real estate? And that December, I got my license, and here we are, blink of an eye, 19 years later. Haven't looked back.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And Jerriann, I actually got to meet your mother, so I know a little bit about you being in real estate a long time, but how about you share that with the audience?
Yes. Well, I would like to say that I've been in real estate, since probably the second grade, because my mother is a realtor, Joanne Berry, in Orangeburg, South Carolina, my hometown. And she would drag, and I use the word drag, my siblings and I around to the rental houses on Saturdays and Sundays and any downtime that we had. And it was our family business. It's what we did. It was our lifeblood. So I've been in real estate a long time. I officially got licensed in 2009. So I started in the recession, and it's been a wonderful journey. But I like to say I've been in real estate my entire life.
Well, although I'm not new in real estate, I have indeed only been a realtor for over a year. I have worked in and now manage a family-owned and operated building residential construction business. So I became a realtor with the goal in mind that in the near future, be able to build and sell keyword affordable housing because obviously right now we know this is an issue. So my goal is to be able to build and sell affordable homes.
So something that I noticed that you all have in common is coming from an entrepreneurial background with your parents, having different businesses. So do you feel like that was a driving factor in you wanting to be in a career where it's more entrepreneurial?
Definitely. For me and my background, with my parents being immigrants, I saw them toil day after day, month after month to give a better life for my two older sisters and I, and, just instilling hard work and, being self-motivating, I think is key to being successful in this business. And I think that, at least for me and my background, it easily translated into real estate and having that entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah. And I would agree. I think one of the things that when we look at real estate, it's about the small business and about entrepreneurship. And my background is economics, and I really see real estate as a good career for setting your schedule, being there. If the harder you work, the more you can make. And it's really about just going forward and pushing forward. And that's what my parents instilled in me, getting up, working hard, and moving forward. And I think that's the entrepreneur and small business dream that's embedded in real estate as well.
That's true. And I agree. And I don't have much to add to that. Also coming from an immigrant family. I'm originally from Mexico. And so when I came to the States, I've known nothing but work, because it is achievable. Just work hard and you will achieve whatever you dream. And so real estate, it's something, like I said, it's something that I want to do and that I want to help others to be able to achieve that one common dream we all have, right? To owning our own home.
Yes, and as you guys know, Fair Housing Month is in April, and this is part of our conference for Fair Housing Month. And it's been a challenge for first-time home buyers to be able to obtain that American dream of home ownership due to the prices going up and investors and just different things that are preventing first-time home buyers from having a chance in the market. Do any of you guys work with first-time home buyers?
Yes, most definitely. Working with first-time home buyers.
Yes, and it is hard right now. What I do tell them is let's just plan and get them to a point to where they're in a strong position, and mainly just don't give up. I'm not gonna give up on you, so I'm not gonna let you just give up on yourself. Yes, there's a lot of competition right now, but we just need to not give up and keep working at it.
I would agree with that. And I would also add to that same vein, don't feel defeated right now. Don't feel defeated. It's the tenacity to push forward, the same tenacity that's pushed you through different obstacles in life. That's how I look at it when I talk to my first-time home buyers. This is not the first obstacle that you've had in your life. That this funny thing that we have going on in the real estate market where right now you feel like you can't get a home even though you're really trying. Think of that as something else that has happened in your life that felt like a burden, and don't give up. Continue to save your money, to continue to build your credit, continue to work hard, and continue to press forward, because like my grandmother used to say, this too shall pass, and that dream of home ownership will happen if you don't give up.
So I know that some people think that real estate is just this profession when you get in and you're going to immediately make a lot of money and you're not going to have to work for anybody. But sometimes people just starting out may be confused on how much hard work it actually takes to be successful in this business. So what are some barriers or some misconceptions that you feel for new agents getting started out in real estate?
That this business is easy money.
Tell the truth here. And I think that social media doesn't help sometimes. I think that sometimes we are our worst enemies as realtors, and we post the glitz and the glam on Instagram and on Facebook. And it is glitzy and glammy in some ways, but it's a lot of early mornings and it's a lot of late evenings and it's a lot of years of hard work. There is no real vacation. You know, when you work in a 9 to 5, when you clock off and you put in your vacation day, you're on vacation. But when you're in real estate, when your phone calls and you're on the beach, especially in a market like now, your client wants you to respond. And that's the things that we don't talk about. You know, we talk about the closings, but also there may not be a vacation day. And it's a lot of hard work and a lot of early mornings, like I said, and a lot of late evenings.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I hadn't had a non-working vacation in 19 years, apparently. Okay. So, the truth of the matter is I agree with what you just said, Jerrianne, and definitely I also think that it's important to, point out that from a commitment standpoint, it's a lot of juggling, as far as multitasking, because, I look at our role as a realtor as the superintendent of the project. You having to check in with everyone, the inspector, the, closing attorney, the lender, all of it. And I think that a lot of people not only underestimate the time commitment, but the overall commitment to the career itself. And that how much that you really have to pay attention to the details. And because guess what, there's no salary position. If we can't make it happen, there's no paycheck at the end, right, for the time that we've invested. So I think that that's a key thing that people should keep in mind, about our business.
Yeah, and we tend not to record or show all of that. And when a transaction, when we get there and it's closed, and yes, it's great to be able to show on social media, closed and the pretty stuff, not knowing what all we went through. And so the perception is that, oh, it's so easy. Oh, they just keep making money, money, money. And in such a short period, when we know, when the commitment is there, when the responsibility to the client to provide the best service, which takes, a lot, is a huge responsibility. It's not easy. It's gratifying, but it's just not easy.
Yeah. And Veronica, I want to add to that. It's also sometimes that time frame, because we talked about the first time home buyer, but that first time home buyer may be your client for a year or two, or even now in this market, your second time home buyer. They may be your client for a couple of months or a couple of years before they purchase that first home. So when you start building that relationship with your client, it could be a year or a year and a half before they actually get into that home. So the time frame may be longer until you get paid.
And coincidentally, we're all women here today at the table on the podcast. And along with our real estate duties and juggling our career, how have you been able to juggle your other responsibilities, such as being a wife or a mother? How has that been, just balancing everything and having time to do it all?
First, I would say support with the family. I talked about my mother being in real estate. My husband is a wonderful partner, and communication. You have to communicate to your family, but also it takes a team. My daughter now is 8. My youngest is 8 and my oldest is 11. And I have her help me. You are going to get engaged now. And if we're passing out postcards or we're at the store, help mommy, because this is not mommy's business. This is our business. And that's what my mother taught me. Jerrianne, this is for our family. This is building generational wealth for our family. And I tell the same thing to my daughters, and my husband gives that same speech. This is a family business. We're all in this together. We want to go to Disney World. We have to give out these business cards so everyone's on board. And also, it's also about that self-care. Waking up early in the morning, I have a routine, going to the gym, making sure you drink your water, making sure that you have time to meditate, doing those things that take care of yourself first, but also incorporating family, incorporating my children in real estate, knowing that sometimes mommy has to take a call, but mommy's going to take that call at the park sometimes, because I'm not going to neglect you. But again, if we want to go to Disney World, we have to work. But it's all in that communication and setting the tone. And my mother did it for us. She was an awesome example. And I'm trying to put that in my children. Work hard, have balance though. Make sure that you take care of yourself and make sure that we have those lines of communications open with my husband and all of my family members.
Good. Okay. Well, for me, I have two kids. My oldest son, he's in college now, so he's a little bit more independent now. My daughter Isabel is a sophomore in high school, so she does still need that attention. I happen to be blessed with a wonderful husband of over 22 years, a great partner, and a wonderful father to our kids. So when it's time to make a meal, or helping with homework, or just simply reprimanding, he's there, and that has helped me a lot. And so as a wife, he knows what our goals are, and he knows what it's going to take and what it's taking for us to be able to achieve those. And he's on board. So I have that great support, like you say, Jerrianne, family, communication, and as long as we're all on the same page, we'll make it. We'll make it. Mhm.
Yeah. I'm lucky in the sense that my business partner is my husband. We started our brokerage together back in 2013, and he came from a building background, and he's also, comes from a small business background with his family, and so that's really translated well into us owning our family-owned brokerage. And self-care is definitely a hot button issue. I've got me a little personal trainer that I go see 2 or 3 times a week. I got a massage therapist that come visits me bi-weekly, and we make sure that we plan some vacations together. And it's still, I'm not going to lie, it's still a balancing act. Every now and again, I have to remind myself, wait, put yourself number one first. Wait, it's 8:30 at night. It's time to, maybe stop checking the emails. But it's something that I still struggle with on a regular. But I think the longer I've been in this business, the more I recognize that stress can really be wearing on your health and your mental energy. So that's why it's so important to really invest that time back into yourself and schedule that time in your calendar for yourself.
Karen, you made a good point about scheduling the time in your calendar. We schedule our appointments, our buyer appointments, and our listing appointments, but schedule time for yourself. Schedule time to take a walk. Schedule time to do, like you said, a massage, which I need to get. Just schedule that time, just like you do the time blocking for the mommies, because we have to have that. Everybody needs to have that. But really, in the industry that we're in, that's high demand, high pressure in this market, scheduling time for yourself, I think, is a really good tip.
And with you, Jerrianne and Karen, you both are owners of your own brokerages. When did you make the switch from being a agent working for another brokerage to owning your own brokerage?
As soon as I could have. My heart belongs to entrepreneurship, and my heart belongs to small business. Seeing my mother with her own broker shop in Orangeburg, my heart was always in entrepreneurship. So I started off with a large brokerage, wonderful training program, did wonderful there. But as soon as the timeline came that I could get my broker license, I was gone. And not because I didn't like the larger model, but because I feel so ingrained to entrepreneurship and small business, and how you can grow a business and how you can really impact the community and be involved as a big, it spoke to me as a person. And to have real estate, something that I love, something that I grew up in, and to mirror that with entrepreneurship, it was just a no-brainer for me. It's hard. It's much more difficult developing the systems and the processes and the recruitment. And we have a small broker shop. But to me, the spirit of entrepreneurship in America is just so important. It was something that I always knew I wanted to do.
For me, I spent a solid decade as an agent working for the larger models, and it was a good education for me to be able to get a good handle on the business and understand the fundamentals. Because ownership of a brokerage is not for everybody. Just, and I say that in the sense that, some some folks just aren't interested in the back end stuff of having bookkeeping, managing errors and admissions, insurance, the taxes, all that goes with it. For me, on my personal story, I was actually sitting with my father. At the time, he was battling colon cancer, and we were at a chemotherapy treatment. And he looked at me and he said, "So it's been about a decade. You've been in this business. Have you ever thought about opening your own shop?" And to be quite frank, the thought had never crossed my mind. I was, already involved with my husband at the time, and he had also mentioned it in passing as a suggestion. And so that, in that instance, was a example of how sometimes those that love you the most know you better than you know yourself. Because that inspiration actually came from, I credit that to my husband and my father. So.
Well, thank you guys for sharing how you are owners of your business. And now, Veronica, I know that you're fluent in both Spanish and English. How has that been a real tool and asset to your business in real estate?
It's been an asset in the sense that there isn't great representation for Hispanics here in the area. And so to me, being able to just speak their language. I mean, you can purchase a home and go to a professional and get it done, right? But when you're able to communicate and explain a contract or just, those forms in a language that they fully understand is just great. It's great that I can do that for them, and it's helped me a lot in like getting to know a lot of people. I've lived here for many years, but I've been in just this circle, and now it's like, oh well, you've lived here for how many years? It's just getting to know people, growing my circle of amistades, I call it, people I know, friends. It's been great, but it's very gratifying for me to be able to provide this service in a language that they fully understand.
And I would just like to say, Veronica, that it's so great that you're able to do that, because I'm going to tell you that also allows you to even be a better advocate to make sure that people are not getting taken advantage of, because that happens more often, I think, in the minority community, second language and all of that. I mean, I saw that growing up, with my parents, speaking English as a second language. So, I think that it's a great thing that you're able to do that, representing those, in your community. And quite frankly, I'm a bit jealous. I wish I knew Spanish as a third language. So because that comes up. I mean, that's a large part of the buying and renting population, and they have a right to know what contracts or agreements they're entering into as well before they sign it.
Yes, it is, and like I said, even if professionals don't speak their language. My mom, to this day, she's 82. She doesn't speak English, but growing up, she got things done. She needed to go to the DMV, and there was no one who spoke Spanish, but she got things done. Grocery store, bank. It's like things are gonna get done. But if you're able to just provide and represent and help them that way, awesome. I'm glad.
Thank you, guys. And I know that Jerrianne and Veronica are both on our Diversity Council. And for all of you, in terms of DEI and diversifying our industry, what are some things that you would like to see change?
Forms in Spanish, contracts in Spanish. That is one thing that I know I'm going to be working hard towards, because I feel it's necessary. And not just in Spanish. I say Spanish because I speak Spanish, right? But just overall in other languages, to be able to offer it. I think it's very important, and it should be done.
And when I think of the initial question about first-time home buyers and diversity and equity and inclusion, making sure that we start talking about financial literacy and financial education at a very young age. Elementary school, making sure that children know how to count, making sure that even though that we don't technically use checkbooks, know the difference between a debit and a liability. So as you grow older, making good financial decisions and making sure that you understand credit. So a lot of times in minority communities, when we look at diversity, equity, and inclusion, we think that some people just simply know, and you may not know because you've never been taught. So really putting policies in elementary school and middle school about understanding financial literacy and building your credit at a young age. So when you get to that point to buy a home, you really understand how to do that.
I understand. I agree with both of you guys. Those are both very good points. Particularly Jerrianne, you're right. Because coming up, it's like they taught you how to sew. Maybe there was a home ec class, but nothing about financial literacy, and that is so important. So important.
And realtors, we can do that in the community. We can get out, we can become leaders on financial literacy and talking about credit, not only when they become our clients, but when they're in high school and when they're in middle school. So are we doing what we need to do as realtor leaders, pushing it out there? Let's be leaders in our community, talking about financial literacy at a young age and making sure that all communities understand the power of money and economic wealth and growing through home ownership. But it starts young.
How important do you think it is for you to also network with your fellow realtors and establish those relationships? And is that something that you guys do as a regular part of your business?
Well, like I said, I'm kind of new as a realtor, and I still find myself getting a little intimidated, especially when I see awesome people like you guys, Karen and Jerrianne. And so I tend to just try to stand back and then just watch and listen. But it is important. I need to be able to do that because, or for the purpose of my clients. I feel like the more I get to know other realtors, establish that relationship, then perhaps there'll be a time when, okay, they know me, I have this client may not be the strongest, but we've worked so hard towards home ownership and getting them prepared to where that might win us the contract.
I think it's very important to network with other realtors, but also to work in your community and on the boards that your realtor association represents. I am in the Piedmont Association of Realtors, and I think it's very important to not only volunteer, but to take a leadership role in your organization and in your community. I said originally that I'm from Orangeburg, South Carolina, and we have a high minority community. When I came to Rock Hill, South Carolina, it was different for me, coming from a community that was high minority in numbers to a community that had lower minorities. I grew up seeing a lot of people in a community that had 2 HBCUs with leadership. And so to me, leadership was something that I learned as a young girl, coming from my mother again, that you not only show up, but you be there and you be present and you make your presence known and you're there for your community. So I think it's important for us to have leadership roles as minorities because, like I said again, my daughters are looking at me. We have a generation now behind us. I am a millennial, but there are a lot of people that paved the way for me. And I want to pave that way for others that are coming, but they need to see us in these roles. They need to see us in leadership positions. And yes, it does take some time. It may take time away from your business to go to that monthly meeting. It takes time to network. It takes time to engage, to really network. And I like to say that as well. It's not just you just come and sit back. And Veronica, I really appreciate that comment coming in because you're brave to even jump into real estate. And I think that's awesome. And then the next step is you join the committees, you join the podcast. And then the next step is that you join the leadership role. So I appreciate South Carolina Realtors for having this opportunity that we understand in this world that diversity matters. It matters to our bottom line, but also leadership then diversity matters because again, policymakers, they need to have us there to push forward and advocate, and you can do that from that leadership role. So I think it's very important for us to get involved.
So I've been studying cultural intelligence, which is the skill to relate and work effectively in cultural diverse situations. And it's a way that you can cross boundaries and be able to connect with a broader scope of customers, clients, and even our colleagues that are diverse and different from us. And sometimes it is, we have lack of understanding of other cultures, which is a barrier to being able to work effectively. So are there any things about your culture that you can share so people can gain a better understanding, or any misconceptions or anything around your cultural identity that can provide our viewers with a better sense of your culture and working with people like ourselves?
Well, sure. There's one that I can think of. If you're going to be visiting a client's house that's of Asian descent, you're going to want to, ask them, should you remove your shoes before you go into their house? Because a lot of Asian families, they don't wear shoes inside their house. They wear house slippers, and I think that being cognizant of that, is a sign of cultural intelligence that, at least culturally, that's something to, be aware of. When you hand in your business card to a person of Asian descent, it is more respectful to hand it with both hands rather than handing it with one hand. These are little nuances, when you're dealing with somebody of an Asian background that I don't want to say, I'm not making a blanket statement, but, do be aware that if somebody comes from certain different parts of the world, interacting with them, little nuances like that do make a difference. And when they pick up on the fact that you're aware of that, I think that's them saying, okay, this person is, culturally advanced, and that they're respecting, who I am as a person, or, themselves, I should say. It makes them feel more at ease. So.
And for me, I feel like when I'm in public settings and I have to go to a lot of events, I get compliments about my hairstyles. I change my hair a lot. And as Black women, our hair is really important to our cultural identity. And, we can change it up and be someone else the next day. And it's just a big part of who we are. And one thing that I think when someone's giving me a compliment, if they go to start touching my hair, it's just an uncomfortable feeling, because it's like I know that it's coming from a place of admiration or a compliment, but it's also kind of invading my personal space and makes me feel uncomfortable in that moment. So I think that is something that people can know. Don't go around, touching people's hair without permission, especially in our climate with COVID and just different things. We've kind of dialed back from, how we used to be more open to hugs and that physical contact. So I think that's something that that people may not just understand about Black women and hair. And don't go around just touching people's hair without permission is something that I would say from my cultural background.
And I like to add to that, Tiara, another thing is about just the angry Black woman just because I don't smile. I was thinking about that today, when you think about just, I have a lot on my mind sometimes. And I may just not be smiling because we have a lot on our mind. I'm thinking about my children, but I'm not upset. So a lot of times you get this, oh, I'm just, you're angry and you're not smiling and you're unapproachable. But no, it's really all of the chaos of the world and all of the things that you're managing and everything that's going on. And I had a mentor tell me one time, he said, Jerrianne, just soften your eyebrows and just pull it up a little bit and then make your face look at ease. And I said, well, that's something good. But also just knowing that culturally, we're not angry at the world, but sometimes that you may have a lot of things on your mind of just the madness of the world, but you're not angry. So sometimes just that little crossing of the arms, of crossing, you just thinking about things, and it doesn't come from a spot of anger.
Well, for me, and this is quite important and yet a little tricky to explain, but in the Hispanic and Latin culture, one addresses a client or an individual of position of power or influence as usted instead of tú, regardless of their age. In the English language, the word is you. There's no distinction, right? And so my best recommendation I can offer in this is when you are dealing with Hispanic or Latin clients, is to address them as Mr. or Mrs. or by their last name, sir or ma'am, until there is that foundation of trust and respect established. That would eventually allow you to refer to them as tú or just you. I worked with, she was my boss for 6 years prior to joining my family's construction business. And I was administrative assistant to her. She always told me, call me Marge. Call me Marge. I was never able to do that. It was always Ms. Sam. But Veronica, we've been together. Call me Marge. I just couldn't. I've been brought up to where there is that distinction. There is that respect. And it's okay, for someone, once you've been told, yeah, you can refer to me by, my first name, to do so. I just couldn't do that. And with, like I said, Latin or Hispanic clients, just refer to them or approach them by their last name until there is that foundation. It's just, we see it as a sign of respect, and we truly appreciate it when someone does that. And this is a lot for people bilingual who actually speak Spanish, and they're able to communicate, but they don't, they're not familiar with that one rule, I guess I should say. I don't know if that helps. I told you it's a little confusing, and I don't know if I explained it right.
No, I understand that, because us as Americans, we're addressing people as by their first name, to help establish familiarity. But it seems like what you're saying, and maybe the Spanish culture, is there is more of understanding of a degree of respect in how you properly address somebody that you're not really familiar with, or somebody that, not even necessarily position of authority, but it's somebody who you want to show your respect to, that you want to, address them by Mr. or Miss or Sir, rather than just assuming that you can address them by their first name. That makes sense.
I would agree with that. Also, in the African American culture, if they are older than you, you need to be saying Mr. and Mrs., especially, no doubt about it, Mr. and Mrs., no first name basis. So I think that's very important.
Yes. And one, a little farther there is in the Hispanic or Latino culture, it doesn't matter if they're older than you. Is you can meet with a client that looks much younger, and still the rule applies until, like I said, there is that foundation of trust and respect established.
Well, thank you all for sharing this. I hope that our members can take this advice and use it in their businesses, or even educate themselves more on these cultural differences that we all have. And the last question that I'll end with asking you all is, what does fair housing mean to you?
That's a very good question. Fair housing means you, as an individual, have the right to purchase whatever house you decide to purchase, wherever you decide to purchase, without anyone interjecting their opinions or their challenges or any type of discrimination for you. That you have that right, and you have it because you've made your money and you want to do it for your family with the money, the hard-earned money that you've made in America.
Nice. To me, it means equal access. regardless of, what background you come from, whatever you look like, even what gender you identify with. I mean, it's just equal access. Everybody needs a place to live. And bottom line, fair housing to me is everybody has a right to fair and equal access to housing.
Yeah, and the expectation as an individual to get the same commitment and that responsibility and that professional service from, in this case, us realtors, to get the ultimate service, regardless of what, Karen, what you said is your background, who you are, how you identify yourself as, your gender, your skin color, basically is we are all the same. We all deserve the ultimate service. And so being able to provide that it's a great honor.
Well, thank you so much for your time and your participation today. And I hope that the viewers are able to learn from your diverse perspectives. And here at SCR, we are wishing you all a happy Fair Housing Month. Until next time.
For past and future episodes, check out the Good Life Podcast at goodlife.screaltors.org. Thanks for tuning in.